No DQ Galaxy, we are live with a recap of AEW Collision as well as AEW Battle of the Belts 7, which was live. And this meant for the first time ever, a 3-hour live AEW television broadcast if you include both shows. I believe the first time AEW has ever gone live on television for 3 straight hours, of course, not including pay-per-view events. Let's get right into it. A lot to discuss. Collision and Battle of the Belts took place in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. We opened up the show with the Saturday night's main event style promos from the various participants in the matches. I dig it. I like the throwback. We had our first match of the evening, which was 2 out of 3 falls. FTR versus Jay White and Juice Robinson. What a match this was. And as I've said over the years, when they start off very slow at the beginning, you know you're in for a long match. And this had to have been one of the longest televised matches in a long time. And of course, I'm not talking about pay-per-view, just talking about free TV. I remember Shawn Michaels and John Cena had an Iron Man match back in 2007. This match went just under an hour, I think about 58 minutes. Very long match here. They took their time with this, and it was absolutely a match that you would see on pay-per-view. FTR, of course, playing tribute to Bret Hart with the Hart Foundation like tights. We also had, I'm not sure if anybody caught this or not, but David Benoit, the son of Chris Benoit, was right there in the front row for this show. He looks just like his dad. It's hard to miss him. Now, we had the stalling, the feeling out process here. And it wasn't an Iron Man match. Thank you, Michael Wayne. It was just a match that went an hour. Shawn Michaels and John Cena. Now, we had a commercial break. We had some near falls early on. And then after the first break, Jay White took control for a while. Juice Robinson prevented the Shatter Machine when FTR started to make their comeback. And then White pinned Dax Harwood with the Blade Runner. We had a second commercial break. Bullet Club Gold was in firm control. They were 1 up, as you would typically book it, to give the heels the advantage. They worked over Cash Wheeler for quite some time. Eventually, Dax Harwood got the hot tag. He delivered a brainbuster, but Juice Robinson kicked out. He attempted to apply the sharpshooter, but could not do it. And then FTR worked together for a bit. They could not put away Jay White. They even busted out a Razor's Edge into a neckbreaker combo. White still kicked out. They attempted the old Power and Glory spot where Dax Harwood does the superplex and then Cash Wheeler goes for the big splash. But White got his knees up, and then Robinson came off the top with a splash to Dax. Dax kicked out, though, at the last second, 2 9/10. FTR eventually recovered, and they took care of Juice Robinson, pinned him with the Shatter Machine to make it 1-1. And we had our third fall, another commercial break. They brought on the outside for a while. Dax Harwood and Jay White both went over the barricade. Medical staff was checking on them. Dax gave White a suplex on the floor, and White barely beat the 10 count, and all 4 guys started brawling. White put the sharpshooter on Dax just to get that heel heat in Canada, but Dax was able to get to the rope, and then Dax countered the Blade Runner attempt. Dax applied the sharpshooter, and then you had Cash Wheeler also applying a sharpshooter. We had dueling sharpshooters to Bullet Club Gold, but FTR could not keep the holds applied. They were so beat up, and Dax had to pull his knee pad down and go for it one more time. And this time he got the tap out. Juice Robinson tapped. And yeah, it was a hell of a match. TV match of the year. And I'm sure a lot of people will put this in the match of the year contendership. Just great stuff here from these guys. And afterwards, Bullet Club Gold, they were offered a handshake by FTR, but they declined. They turned it down and walked off. I liked it. I know the sportsmanship stuff is all fine and dandy, but as I like to say, to hell with the sportsmanship. I like to see when heels are heels, and I was a fan of them just walking off and not shaking hands here. We had our second match of the evening, and remember, this was into the second hour. We had Ruby Soho versus Willow Nightingale in the Owen Hart tournament final for the women. Ruby Soho, the heel that she is, had an Owen Hart, it's time for a change ring jacket, which is nice, but what about a little bit of kayfabe here? You're a heel. You got to be a heel. Anyways, very good match here with the ladies having to follow the tag team match. I thought they did a pretty solid job. Willow Nightingale definitely has the charisma and personality, and she busted out a few Canada moves, the power slam in tribute of the British Bulldog, and Ruby kicked out of that. They traded some near falls. Ruby tried to cheat, of course, using the spray paint. She grabbed the bottle and put it in Ruby's hands and tried to tattle to the referee, but that did not work out for her. However, when the referee was getting rid of the can, Ruby took a cheap shot, hit the no future kick, but Willow did kick out of it. And then Ruby tried to use the can, but missed. Willow hit the pounce, followed by the sit-down power bomb, and picked up the 1-2-3 victory to win the Owen Hart tournament. A lot of people are high on Sky Blue right now, but I feel like it's Willow's time. Willow is the one that's getting the big crowd reactions. And I remember being at Dynamite a couple months ago in Detroit, and Willow got this huge reaction. I think Blue Sky's on her way. I mean, she's definitely building her following with every week. But Willow right now, I think, is the hotter act. And, when the iron's hot, you have to strike it. So I definitely like Willow winning this. Like I said, good match here. And we had Tony Khan showing up to present the trophy, and the announcers, by the way, no Kevin Kelly, the other guy from Ring of Honor, filled in for him, Ian something. They did say that later on, Martha Hart would do a full-blown presentation for the Owen Hart tournament. We had QT Marshall backstage trying to make peace with Will Hobbs after what happened last week, and did not really go over too well for him. And then Malachi Black and Brody King won a quick squash match. We had Andrade El Idolo show up. He got on the stage. He was threatening to come into the ring. Referees had to separate them. So yeah, this feud continues, and we'll see if Andrade gets a tag team partner to help him out. We then had our final match of the Owen Hart men's tournament, CM Punk versus Ricky Starks. Very mixed reaction to CM Punk. A lot of boos, but a lot of cheers as well for Punk. It was the John Cena reaction. He had the pink attire, of course, paying tribute to Bret Hart. We had the dueling chants back and forth with these two. They did some mat wrestling for a while, and then CM Punk sent Starks to the outside, held the rope open to invite him back in the ring, and then later Starks threw Punk out and did the same thing, holding the rope open for him to come back in. CM Punk was doing the Bret Hart moves, doing the elbow from the middle rope, still got a lot of boos, did the Bret Hart side Russian leg sweep. And after the commercial break, Starks missed the flying elbow. They collided into each other. CM Punk busted out the Owen Hart pile driver that injured Steve Austin. Starks kicked out of that, and Starks was able to avoid the go to sleep. He hit the spear, but CM Punk went to the outside of the ring. Starks got him back in, went for another spear, but Punk countered it into a submission, and Starks just barely was able to break the hold, and they exchanged several near falls, rolling each other up, reversals, but then Starks grabbed the rope and got the 1-2-3 victory. Cheated to win. Heel turn, apparently, for one Ricky Starks. Interesting finish here. Interesting decision to seemingly turn him back heel, because after the match was over, if we weren't sure of the heel turn, you had Jushin Thunder Liger, wrestling legend, showing up on the stage to present the trophy. Jushin Liger, of course, has a history with Owen Hart, and he was going to present the title to Ricky Starks, but Ricky just snatched it away from Liger and went straight to the back. I'm not sure how I feel about all this. Like, Ricky Starks winning is great for him, but the crowd loves him so much. A heel turn, we'll see how it works out for him. Like, he can play the heel very, very well, but at the same time, where do you go from here? Like, are we going to have a CM Punk and Ricky Starks rematch? I want the CM Punk heel turn, but maybe they're going to do the John Cena shtick with him and keep him as a technical baby face, because he'll get the mixed crowd reactions and he'll be like John Cena. But I want a-hole CM Punk back. I want Punk to just go all out and be the full-blown heel again. But yeah, Ricky Starks is a heel. He can pull it off, but will the crowd really boo the guy? That remains to be seen. And I kind of feel bad for Jushin Liger. Like, the dude flew to Canada and he's literally on screen for like 10 seconds, and that was that. And I think I might have preferred a clean finish in this tournament rather than doing the cheating, but it is what it is, and maybe it'll be a good thing for Ricky Starks. Building Nexus sent in a $2 super chat, and yeah, I would love this, man. Says, hopefully they are saving Punk's heel turn for MJF. I've been saying this for a while now. Like, I want to see Punk go heel and MJF go babyface. Like, that's what I want. And with this MJF Adam Cole storyline, like, the obvious direction is that MJF turns against Cole. But like, I want to see a swerve. I want to see something different. I'm thinking Roderick Strong's probably gonna turn against Adam Cole and something like that, and MJF goes back to his heel ways. But I want to see Punk go heel and MJF go babyface and have them go for the title with the roles reversed. But don't know if that's going to happen. Doesn't seem like it. And my feeling is MJF's going to stay the same. CM Punk's going to stay the same. And they're going to try to milk the crowd reactions as much as possible and have CM Punk be like John Cena. All in all, great show. I mean, the 2 out of 3 falls match was a classic. I mean, that will definitely go down as one of the best TV matches in many years, and arguably the best AEW television match of all time. Like, you think of some of the best matches, you think of Kenny Omega and Pac from several years back. And you think of that Cody Rhodes, Wardlow cage match and Blood and Guts, of course. This is up there among the greatest AEW TV matches, in my opinion. And Bryan Danielson, Kenny Omega, that 30-minute match. And even the Adam Cole MJF match from a couple of weeks ago. So yeah, definitely up there. I give the show an A-. Like, very minimum amount of talking on the show. It was definitely a wrestling heavy show. I don't think you needed the House of Black squash match. I would have given Ruby and Willow maybe a little bit more time and just done 3 matches on the show and let that be it. They did go over just a tiny bit, but they had Battle of the Belts. We're going to get right into Battle of the Belts now and talk about that. First match was Orange Cassidy versus Lance Archer with Jake the Snake Roberts back. Crowd was chanting for Jake. I mean, they were very much into him. And, with these types of matches, they're hard to book because Lance Archer is a beast, but they don't book him like one. He always talks the big game and beats up the security, but then he loses the big matches. So yeah, it was standard big man, little guy situation where Archer was just beating the crap out of Cassidy for the most part. Cassidy would fight back and stay in it for a bit. And at one point, Archer started beating up security again. Cassidy took advantage and ended up throwing the security guards on top of Archer. And then Jake Roberts tried to get involved. Roberts was going to give Cassidy a DDT, but Archer stopped it. Archer did not want that happening, and this ended up being his downfall because Cassidy delivered a DDT of his own to Archer on the floor, and then both got on the apron, and the referee was counting. Orange Cassidy punched Archer. He fell off the apron. Orange Cassidy got back in the ring and won the match by countout. A countout finish on AEW does not happen often, but it did in this occasion. And you know what? I mean, I suppose, protected Archer. He lost, but by countout. Yeah, I mean, they kind of booked themselves into a corner a little bit by doing this match. Like, you don't want either guy losing. I mean, you could have had Archer win the title, but I guess they want to keep this title run of Orange Cassidy going. So they came up with this, and yeah. I mean, Archer just has not really been able to pick up any steam. Anytime he starts to build up momentum, he loses a big one. And that's it. It sets him back a step or two. It's like 1 step forward, 2 steps back with the poor guy. Maybe they do a no DQ match and Archer wins the title. Who knows? But match was entertaining for what it was. It's just like, man, they could have done so much more with Archer. And I don't know if it's too late or not. The guy is not a youngster anymore. I think he's like in his mid-40s at this point. So, yeah, I mean, a few years ago, they really should have pulled the trigger on the guy. I don't know if there's still time to do it with him. We had Tony Schiavone bringing the Acclaimed to the ring. And on Battle of the Belts, we basically just had some hype for next week. They're doing the Royal Rampage again since they got the 2 rings set up for Dynamite, and they tape Rampage afterwards. And they also hyped up next week's Collision. Acclaimed will be getting a rematch for the Trios titles, and that'll be next week. We had Toni Storm defending her AEW Women's Championship against Taya Valkyrie. And Taya, of course, from Canada, got a huge reaction. You had Ruby Soho out there laughing as Toni was tossing Taya around the floor. But then Taya started to build up some momentum, and she nailed Toni with a hip attack, which is usually Toni's move, then gave Toni a stink face for good measure. But then Toni Storm summon the gods, the god of storms, and the picture went out. The live feed went out for TNT, and we went to a commercial break. We had the commercials. When we came back to the commercials, we did not have the conclusion of the match. Instead, we had footage of Julia Hart from what I believe was last week's Collision. And then we cut to the announcers, and they confirmed that there was a satellite interruption. But they did not tell us who won the match. Stay tuned. We'll have an update on that here in just a moment. We had Martha Hart show up for the Owen Hart tournament presentation. Ricky Starks and Willow Nightingale were out there. Martha Hart cut this promo. She gave praise to Chris Jericho and Jeff Jarrett and talked about Owen Hart, talked about the tournament, how happy she was with the whole thing. It was pretty standard stuff, mostly the same stuff that she said last time. So yeah, nice little segment here they did on Battle of the Belts. And then we had our main event, the final match of this 3 hours, Luchasaurus defending the TNT Championship against Shawn Spears. Ty Dillinger. I mean, come on now. But anyways, Shawn Spears was in Canada. He got a pretty good reaction in Canada. Scorpio Sky was watching backstage, and Luchasaurus was largely dominating the match. Shawn Spears stayed in the fight and at one point almost won because Christian, first of all, Christian was running around and Shawn Spears was trying to chase after him. Stupid baby face. But then Christian set up a chair in the corner. However, it was Luchasaurus that got sent into the steel chair, and Spears almost won, but then Luchasaurus regained the upper hand and picked up the victory with a lariat to the back of the head. And we did have the footage shown from the end of Toni Storm's match. Ruby Soho got involved. I mean, surprised? Ruby Soho interfered. Toni Storm retained the title. I mean, pretty much what you would have expected anyways. And if anybody wanted to see it, it will be on the TNT app, and they'll probably upload the match on YouTube. So you'll get to see it. Most likely you'll have a way to see it if you really wanted to see the rest of it. All in all, Battle of the Belts was okay, but, you know, you had the big technical glitch and all the matches were predictable. Like I did not anticipate Lance Archer winning, and he did not. And the other two matches, I think the outcomes were predictable. It was decent. Not as good, you know, for the 1 hour show. It was fine. I would probably give it like a B-. Collision was definitely the better show. And of course, you had the 1 hour match for the tag titles, which was a potential match of the year contender. But all in all, solid night. Did not go perfectly for AEW, but it was a fun show. Fun 3 hours overall. And Building Nexus sent in a $2 super chat. Thank you for that. Says, do you think Luchasaurus might turn on Christian? Yeah, I could see that happening if Christian's out there holding up the belt and acting like he's the champion. Maybe eventually Luchasaurus goes back to being a babyface. I could see that as a possibility. I would not be opposed to it either. Like, let him have this heel run for a bit, but you could definitely do that turn at any point. And what they need to do, if they're going to do this again, the main event, you want people to watch to the end. So you got to have a big main event. If you're putting Shawn Spears out there in the main event, like you're just begging people to take their remote control and click off. Like, you got to put MJF. If it's Battle of the Belts, it's got to be big. Go big or go home. Put MJF in the main event against somebody of name value. Like, do Adam Cole versus MJF. I know they're likely saving it for Wembley, but we need a big match to close out Battle of the Belts so people have a reason to stick around for the very end. So I would say do that in the future. Don't put Shawn Spears in the main event. But all in all, like I said, pretty entertaining stuff for the most part. Thank you all for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a like on YouTube. Tell a friend. Spread the word about NoDQ.com. Buy a shirt at NoDQ.com/merch. Have a great rest of your weekend, everybody. And I will have a new Fight Forever video coming up. I might actually do a live stream this week of Fight Forever just for fun. So stay tuned for that. Take care, everybody. And remember, say yes to NoDQ.com. And I will see you all next time.